What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're diving straight into another draft here on Underdog Fantasy. We are making our way ever so close to the finale in the end of our 2022 draft season. We've got just over a week here. Actually, a week from the day I'm recording this video is the kickoff for the 2022 NFL season. I could not be more pumped. And here we are on the clock starting off today's 12-team half PPR mock draft. This is actually a real fantasy draft, so I should not call it a mock draft, but it is an example for what I believe are the best strategies and how to implement various different strategies, whether they're the best or not. Obviously, everyone has their own opinion for this upcoming year, but today we'll be selecting with the 1.2 overall pick, which ironically is my least favorite draft position this year because of the pick I just made, Christian McCaffrey. It's that awkward realm and territory where he's the best player on the board. He is clearly the best running back in fantasy, in my opinion, in terms of just the ability to catch footballs out in space, to be an incredibly productive and efficient player, and give you that super high upside in PPR leagues. But then he has that ever so detrimental risk factor associated with his draft stock this year. Obviously, a player who's only played 10 games in the last 2 years total. So that's a huge issue, a huge concern for me. But again, it's that kind of territory where you feel foolish looking back on things if you don't select him there at the 1.2 pick. You're probably not going to end up having too much success from that draft position if you go elsewhere and he does hit. It would be very hard to overcome that. Of course, you could take an Austin Eckler, who is probably my next pick there at the 1.6. He actually fell a bit down today's draft board. Derrick Henry ended up going at the 1.3. So we're about to the end of the first round here. Once we get out of the first round, I'll pop up the big draft screen for you all to check out here. I'll start drafting from my phone and trying to get you guys, obviously, the best view of today's video. I am currently recording this video. This is the first episode being recorded from my brand new studio. I wish I could show you guys the back end of this thing. It's pretty dang sick. Maybe I'll put something on Instagram or Twitter so you guys can go check that out. I actually posted a picture of my studio from last year. This one is far, far better. It's really, really exciting stuff. So smash a like on today's video before we get started or too far into things here. It helps me out a ton. Takes 2 seconds and shows YouTube that you're enjoying today's content. I will continue breaking down every pick on the board here as we progress through things. Well, probably not every pick. It's moving too fast for me to do so, but the reason, going back to my draft position for today, I'm not super excited or happy to be selecting from the 1.2 overall pick, again, goes back to that risk factor and kind of the uncertainty of there are so many different scenarios that can play out between your second pick and then those late second and early third round selections. There's a great variance in how I've seen these boards play out. I've selected probably 5 times in videos here on YouTube from this 1.2 pick. I own a unfortunately large amount of shares of Christian McCaffrey. I'm actually going to try and go into some of my exposure numbers here and see if I can't just show you guys or at least pass along the word of how much I've had essentially with Christian McCaffrey on my team. How many leagues, what percentage of my teams? I'm just trying to figure out how I can access that real quick. I looked at it before, but maybe something for the end of today's video. I can go back, edit that portion in, and let you know. Oh, here we go, exposure numbers. We are getting close to our pick though, so I am going to pay relatively close attention to the draft board. We do have a 22% exposure rate to Christian McCaffrey. That's the number I was looking for there. So unfortunately, of all the best ball drafts I've done this summer and this offseason, Christian McCaffrey has been picked in dang near 1 in 4 of them. Again, that's just luck of the draw in terms of when I've been selecting from 1-2 or been hanging out at the 1-3 pick and he falls to me there. Again, not my favorite situation to be in the world there, but here we go. So the best players available on the board are looking like Mark Andrews, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman, or T. Higgins. I'm going to go ahead here and select my top ranked receiver on the board at this point in time, Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There we go. Got that squared away. Essentially, my thought process here, while I do love Mark Andrews, I think he is a fantastic pick to have this season. I think there's a pretty significant drop-off, and we are going to end up getting Mark Andrews here at the top of the 3rd round. I'm just going to make sure that's the route I want to go about things. I could also select James Conner. I think at this point in time, though, the value is too good for Mark Andrews, the 2nd tight end on my draft board for this season. We're not going to pass him up. We're going to address that spot there. So basically my thought process and my strategy for selecting Mike Evans first is that you saw on the bend there, both Michael Pittman and Keenan Allen went off the table. As I did say, I see a significant drop-off between Mike Evans to those 2 players. I think Mike's ceiling is far higher than Keenan Allen's, while Keenan might be more reliable. Michael Pittman has a very good ceiling as well. However, his level of provenness, if you will, just in terms of the production and results we've seen from him on the field, is a much smaller sample size. For me with Mike Evans, it's not even so much about caring about those 1,000-yard seasons as much as it is caring about the touchdown numbers, the red zone success, Tom Brady as his quarterback, the situation surrounding him this season, knowing that Chris Godwin, yes, should be expected to go week 1, but maybe he's not the fullest 100% form of himself this year. Not to say that I don't still like him in fantasy. I think that if you're getting a guy who has a very legitimate case to be Tom Brady's top target this season in terms of just the raw number of targets he sees, I'm in on that every single day of the week. But for me, Evans has that additional superlative of touchdown production, both in the red zone, deep downfield. He's a phenomenal player in terms of his hands, his contested catch rate, all kinds of stuff you love to see there. And then for me, Mark Andrews. So my other argument was going to be, if Mark was picked on that bend there, I also love Kyle Pitts. So for me, the drop-off between Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts, yes, Pitts, if you want to go back to the argument I just made between Evans and Pittman, the provenness of a Mike Evans versus a Michael Pittman, I feel much more confident in the elite athleticism, the size and speed combination of a Kyle Pitts. Yes, he doesn't have that elite as compared to Mark Andrews, I guess is where I was going with that. Yes, Kyle Pitts had 1 touchdown last year. He doesn't have elite quarterback play. You can make the argument that Lamar Jackson is not an elite quarterback, but we saw him produce a number 1 tight end finish for Andrews last season. Elite quarterback in terms of his passing as well. A lot of clarifications that we're having to make here early in today's video. In terms of his traits and what he brings to the table, I believe Lamar is absolutely 1,000% an elite NFL quarterback. I was more so referencing the passing and accuracy of those targets, the quality of targets being delivered to Mark Andrews. But again, we did see, yes, Lamar played just 12 games last season, but Tyler Huntley delivered some good contests as well. Particularly against my Green Bay Packers, Mark Andrews absolutely ate up our secondary alive and was catching clutch touchdown passes, almost got the game-winning 2-point conversion last year. He's a crazy good player. He actually reminds me a lot of Travis Kelce. He's not nearly as smooth in space, but they are similarly kind of big, clunkier, not the most, visually, like Kyle Pitts just looks like a different type of athlete. He is much leaner, I would say, than both of those 2 players are. He is bigger, he is faster. Andrews and Kelce kind of just take up a lot of space. They're able to bump guys off their routes and just get open very, very effectively. But at the end of the day, should Kyle Pitts have fallen to me there at the 3-2 and Andrews didn't, I wouldn't have been heartbroken. It would have played out just fine for me. So let's take a look here. How are some teams starting off their drafts today? I do really like the Javonte Williams and DeAndre Swift pairing at the 110 and 2-3 picks there. Cortland Sutton and Allen Robinson are both very solid players to address the receiver position with as well. I think Allen Robinson will be a fantastically consistent target to have this year versus a Cortland Sutton could potentially have some of that legitimate red zone and touchdown producing potential. So, wow, Dameon Pierce has seen his ADP skyrocket, man. We're into the middle of the 4th round, and Dameon Pierce is going off the board with the highest ADP of anyone in that category, ahead of Ezekiel Elliott, I should say, of anyone, of the rookie running backs. That is shocking, shocking stuff to see here. Let's see. So, those of you who watched my videos know I am an absolute fanatic of drafting Jerry Jeudy. He's still hanging out there on the board for me, but we've got ourselves a really interesting situation right here. So I think I might dabble into my first share of Justin Herbert here. He is my quarterback 2 for this upcoming season. We just got him at the back end of the 4th round, which isn't phenomenal value, but it is a spot where I feel comfortable taking him. If Jerry Jeudy falls off the board, he is my top-ranked receiver available right now. I won't be absolutely crushed because I do have so many shares of him this season. This next player we are selecting, though, will be my second receiver off the board. Now, we are a bit thin at running back. It's looking like we're going to be going for the ever so risky hero running back strategy for today's video with the riskiest running back you could possibly have in that role. Of course, that player being Christian McCaffrey. There is some opportunity potentially when we come back. There's guys like Josh Jacobs, Chase Edmonds, Tony Pollard, hopefully, maybe Ramondre Stevenson, the Seattle running backs that could be available for us. And we narrowly avoid the auto selection there. Even if we did, it would have been Jerry Jeudy. So I'm liking the start to today's draft. It is not the most safe draft position to start from, again, just at its nature of having CMC be the 1.2 pick in fantasy this year. And then the strategy we're approaching today's video with, definitely something I have not explored yet. So despite the fact that we have definitely drafted from 1.2 already this season, again, nearly 25% of my leagues have been from this spot. It's just crappy luck in my opinion. Maybe some of you guys love selecting from 1.2 overall, but that is not the case for me. So this is a really interesting team right here, and I actually kind of love their construction. I am not a big proponent of the zero running back strategy. I don't know if a 3rd round pick necessarily quantifies you for hero RB. Travis Etienne certainly could fulfill that role. I personally feel that his skill set is very reminiscent of what Alvin Kamara does. The utility and usage from Jacksonville will ultimately be the deciding factor in that situation, but man, holy upside here. Justin Jefferson, my wide receiver 1 for this season. You've got Deebo Samuel, another potential top 12 receiver easily if they use him in even somewhat of a wide back fashion role this year. His upside is incredible. And then you've got Gabe Davis, of course, who is tied to Josh Allen and could do ridiculous things. Jalen Hurts is one of my favorite quarterbacks. I have him ranked as my top, or I have him ranked in my top 5, I'll say, for this upcoming year. That could land him very well. They drafted that position at the QB4 spot. Lamar Jackson fell down to the QB5. Both players very, very good draft day values there. So what I would have loved to have is you see Mike Williams actually fell down pretty late in today's draft. Our position didn't really set us up for a stack there, but man, having a Justin Herbert and Mike Williams stack would have been very, very fun to have for today's episode, and obviously all season long as they hopefully deliver massive ceilings to one another. I will continue scrolling here, peeking at some other teams. I really like what this team has done, though. Usually, I'm not necessarily going to pigeonhole myself into a robust running back draft strategy every single time on the clock. I'm also not going to, follow one strategy or another to the absolute T every single time. Again, I just said I'm not huge on RB0. I know there's a big community of people out there who are able to make it work. Really what you need is insane upside and those guys to hit at a high level at your receiver positions, be able to calculate matchups very well. If that's the case, if you're able to do that, you're going to have a fantastic time all year long. But it's risky. I mean, Travis Etienne, on paper, I absolutely love him. Having him as my RB1, though, would be a bit ballsy, obviously, because James Robinson sounds like he's a bit ahead of schedule in terms of his injury and health progression here, his recovery from that late season Achilles tear last year. And then clearly, we haven't seen Travis Etienne on the field for a single snap of Jacksonville Jaguars football in the regular season. So I think he'll do great. His preseason was encouraging. The routes run per game was awesome. Doug Peterson's numbers in terms of the opportunities he's provided to the running back position on a per game basis have been phenomenal as well. It all depends, again, on how many opportunities they're going to give him to touch the rock every single week. I apologize. I'll scroll up here so you guys can see what's going on. And yeah, so we're coming back here. We are 4 picks away. I will have to reach on likely one running back here. Josh Jacobs is probably the running back that I'm going to end up doing that with. There are receivers I do like as well, from Adam Thielen to Drake London. I could potentially take an Allen Lazard. I do think Drake London, Christian Kirk gives me some nice upside as well. We do have Trey Lance still hanging out on the clock here, or on the table to be selected here by one of the teams in the clock. I will not be doing so, of course. I already drafted my quarterback. It probably would have worked out fine. I also didn't want to select a running back at this last position here at the 4'11 or 5'2. A.J. Dillon actually did go fairly high above his ADP, but I wasn't comfortable enough to reach down there and do that. It does sound like he'll catch a high volume of passes this season. If that's the case, it'll be phenomenal. Aaron Rodgers actually said both him and Aaron Jones could be candidates to see 50 or more catches apiece. So obviously that would be awesome. A.J. Dillon has there. That sucks. I wanted Drake London there. He has the size and potential to be obviously where was I going with this? He has the size and potential to be a goal line threat as well. That's the last thing I was going to touch on there. So the question begs here, this team's got 2 running backs. I better dabble in this market at least once and get myself equipped. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs here. It's not a guarantee that he's going to be a solidified workhorse running back for that Raiders offense. However, I loved the work I saw from him in the preseason. I think it's fairly established at this point in time that he is going to be involved in a system where you've got a fairly competent offensive structure. The offensive line, obviously on paper, looks very rough. Cutting Alex Leatherwood was kind of a surprise to me. He was not as good at offensive tackle as I hoped he would be. He is a good run blocker, but he was very poor in pass protection. And then, obviously, they kicked him inside to guard, and for whatever reason, I haven't dove into the numbers too much to determine whether or not that was a future financial issue, whether cutting him this season would save them money next year against the cap, because I know they are fairly loaded up with larger contracts. You've got the likes of Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. I believe Chandler Jones probably has a decent amount of money being made there, amongst others as well. So it's not the best situation. I did opt to go with Christian Kirk there with my second selection on that bend. We'll continue to address the running back room, but for me, you've got Elijah Mitchell, Chase Edmonds, Tony Pollard, CEH on the board. I think there are other opportunities to be had. I could potentially, with my next 2 picks, get the Seattle running back stacked, and that would be very nice. We'll see ultimately how ADP and how the rest of the draft room decides to let things fall for us today, but Christian Kirk was my second selection there, transitioning over to the Jacksonville Jaguars now. Kirk, for me, is someone I really like as a value play right now. Getting a 7th-round pick as a potential and, very likely lead receiver for a very, very talented quarterback is something that can't go without saying. Now, there are guys like D-Hop here who, yes, he suspended 6 games, but he could potentially finish as a top 12 wide receiver on a per-game basis. He won't have enough time to catch up, I don't imagine, in terms of overall points scored. But you've got some really great values here in the 7th round at the receiver position. Even Adam Thielen there at the 7-1, a guy who catches a whole lot of touchdown passes and is very, very relevant in his red zone production. Stuff that gets you easy fantasy points. And for me, Christian Kirk at the 7-2 here, a guy who, again, could be, and I think will be, Trevor Lawrence's top target this year. Could see roughly 140 targets at his peak, I would estimate there. So I like that situation a lot. I think between Marvin Jones, they just traded Laviska Shenault out of house, so it looks like Zay Jones is going to get a starting opportunity here. There's work to be had. I think that negative game scripts will still be a factor here. They honestly could make a run at that division because of kind of the inconsistencies and strange situation that's been at play there. But I love that stuff a lot in terms of getting involved with the Christian Kirk market share there. And I am happy to draft him if the draft position lines up properly. So we are in the same round coming back to us here. We're up in 6 picks. Rashad Penny is my top player on the board right now. I would love if he fell to us here. That may not be the case. Even so, if he doesn't, I feel very, very comfortable drafting Kareem Hunt here, should he be available. So we've got 2 running back options for draft selections until we're up on the board. Remember, you guys, if you're enjoying today's episode, make sure to click that like button. It helps me out a ton here. And it looks like we might just get our pick of the crop here. Another option is I could go both Penny and Hunt. We'll see where this team ends up going here. It would kind of zap my upside a little bit, and there goes Hunt. So that kind of sucks. I was actually really excited that it looked like he was going to fall to me there. I will, unfortunately, be reaching down the board here to get that Kenneth Walker addition for this team. What's really nice is that the 3 different backfields I'm invested into here in today's episode all have different bye weeks. The Seahawks are week 11, the Raiders are week 6, and then Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers are week 13. So feeling good about the construct of how this room has turned out. Not loving how much I'm having to spend these middle round picks on running back, but I think it can work out. We are getting a fairly good receiver room. There are some really talented guys on the board. Traylon Burks is still there. You've got phenomenal quarterbacks. This is kind of why I always don't love drafting that early running back spot, or excuse me, that early quarterback being Justin Herbert there in the late 4th round. Let's see, I could have snatched an A.J. Dillon there. I probably, at the end of the day, would have felt good about that. I didn't want to reach down that far, but it is what it is. Because knowing I could have had Tom Brady at this draft pick here at the 9-2 to pair with Mike Evans would have been a really, really nice stack to have. So that's something worth noting there. Things do seem to be playing out all right, though. I do think that either Penny or Walker will be incredibly effective regardless of who the starting running back is. Pete Carroll has expressed his confidence in both players, so I think it's just going to be a matter of who's getting the touches. And in this best ball format, that works great. I don't have to try and play the guessing game of who's going to be out there, who's going to be actually touching the rock every Sunday. As a matter of fact, it might just come down to who is healthy. Kenneth Walker is recovering right now from a surgery that was initially reported as a sports hernia, and then it was something that just became an undisclosed injury. And Rashad Penny, we all know his struggles. He's a very talented player. He's a good playmaker, but he struggles to produce availability. Not in the fantasy scoring column when he gets the rock. He struggles to just be on the field is really his biggest problem. So just taking a peek at the roster construction here, I'll pop down the draft board for just a second. Justin Herbert is our QB1 right now. Again, we do have 4 running backs addressed. We went with the route of, how many rounds was it before we selected our second running back? We went from the 1st round and waited till the 6th round. I think things worked out fine at the end of the day. Again, I do like having that stack. Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, and Christian Kirk are our top 3 receivers. It is going to be a little bit troublesome here in week 11. We're going to have to add some quick depth here. We have really great play at the quarterback and tight end positions. I think we have top 3 players in that respect there. So if this running back room works out with CMC staying healthy, and obviously these players hitting as well, Jerry Jeudy and Christian Kirk are relatively unproven, but the upside is very, very high. This team could make some noise. It's not the most comfortable draft approach for me, but it is one that I think is having its benefits in terms of how things are actually falling our way in this episode. So kind of the target here from here on out, we have obviously the opportunity to draft some reserve. I'll probably make a run at Isaiah Likely, having Mark Andrews on this team, just to handcuff that position were something to happen to one of the most important players on this roster. But the main focal point of this draft going forward will, of course, be receiver upside and depth. So I'll be picking some rookies here. I'll be picking some guys that have some really nice opportunities to make some noise earlier in their offenses. Players that just have the door opened up a little bit because of injuries to other pieces, other playmakers, or simply just the fact that they're balling out. And I love their college tape. If you don't know, I spent a long time reviewing film for each of the relevant players in fantasy football this season coming into the NFL draft for the 2022 season. I do that every single year, and I'll be doing it again this season with our rookie package on sizzlefantasy.com. If you guys want access to our in-depth and exclusive content, as well as myself setting your lineup for you every single week and answering all your fantasy questions, check out sizzlefantasy.com. The link is in the description of today's episode. It's awesome stuff. I've been emailing people, chatting people on Discord, all kinds of great stuff. Those are the 2 ways you can get a hold of me as a gold member, or my email with your gold member email address, or via the community Discord server that we set up for you once you become a member of the All Access Pass or SFS Gold. If you're wanting access to that stuff, you can get it for just $10 when you sign up on Underdog Fantasy. You put 10 bucks into your Underdog account, and that's yours to play with. They're going to double your money and give you $20 to start with, and you're going to get the All Access Pass, which is access to me, my fantasy advice, my weekly rankings for your lineups, all that great stuff. Just for signing up with Underdog Fantasy using code SFS. The link is in the description of today's video, but that code is very important. That is how they know I sent you on over there. So Romeo Doubs will be our first player selected here. Another really interesting situation is Josh Palmer's hanging out there on the board. I might just get that little third wide receiver stack here. That'd be something fun to go with. Is that we would have the potential for an expanded role with Josh Palmer. We have Justin Herbert at quarterback, and we could potentially reap the rewards of the success those two players have on the field. I just might do that. It is really hard for me right now not to draft Isaiah McKenzie, though. If this were any other, they made my choice for me. The pick on the bend really rained on my parade there, but maybe it's for the best, because I was going to go for the stack. I was going to draft Josh Palmer had he been available to me at that draft position. He was not, so instead I pick Isaiah McKenzie, who seems to have won that Cole Beasley role from Jamison Crowder. Kind of sucks, because I'll be honest, I drafted a lot of shares of Jamison Crowder in the early stages of this summer, so I've got, I'll pull up my exposure numbers for him just to be kind of transparent with you guys and let you know where my projection was wrong. And I don't think that was something just personally on me. I mean, I think almost everyone in the fantasy community was saying draft Jamison Crowder. He's got all this guaranteed money on his contract. They drafted him to be that slot player for this year. Yeah, I've got roughly the same amount of ownership in Jamison Crowder as I do Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, hopefully that works out. We'll see. But it does look like Isaiah McKenzie did lock down that starting spot in the slot. If you go to ESPN, which is just a really nice simplistic tool, it's not always the most accurate thing in the world in terms of their depth chart doesn't always reflect who's going to get snaps in a given matchup, because you have to understand that type of thing and kind of pre-scout opponents for teams. But they do have Isaiah McKenzie listed ahead of Crowder. So McKenzie's a really nice, shifty guy. He's explosive. He's not the biggest player in the world. He's actually fairly small, but he does fit well into that role as the Bills' number 3 receiver in between Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. So make sure you're drafting those Isaiah McKenzie shares. Regardless of what happens, whoever is fulfilling that Cole Beasley role will become immensely valued for fantasy purposes and become someone you absolutely want on your team. Beasley was seeing frequent and regular double-digit target games, and just that type of volume and exposure to an elite quarterback like a Josh Allen, it doesn't really get much better than that. So take advantage of it while you can. Get those shares. Maybe you want to hedge your bet a little bit. I'll be hedging my bet here with Isaiah McKenzie because it looks like that's the bet that's going to win. But, I'll have both. And if one goes down and the other stays healthy, I'll be set either way. So I didn't really do much justice or pay much attention to my Romeo Doubs pick. I was too concerned about my next selection on the board. With that, you've just got a shot, a dart throw here to be the number 1 pass-catching option in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, and that in itself is insanely valuable. So I think that kind of does all the talking I need to do. I can elaborate further. He's a player that looks very good. He could be a potential physical receiver for that football team. I think Coach LaFleur likes him because he has the size to block in the run game on the perimeter, and obviously that size gives him some jump ball and contested win ability as well. For me, if I'm looking for a comp for Romeo Doubs, he looks like he's bulked up significantly since his college days. He reminds me a lot of James Jones, another former Packer and Raiders wide receiver. Now, he's, to me, kind of a hybrid of him and Jared Cook. I actually had my friend toss out that idea. I might have referenced this in a previous video, but he's not the smoothest mover. He's no Devontae Adams. He's not a magician with his feet. He's kind of a rigid player, if you will. He looks a little stiff when he's running his routes, just like Jared Cook kind of did at times, and the size reminds me of a James Jones, just in terms of his physical size, like his bulkiness and his muscular build, not even necessarily just a pure height thing, but for me, he could be wildly successful this season. Is it Allen Lazard? Is it Christian Watson? Which, again, he is getting downplayed and losing so much hype. It's crazy. He might not see the field super, high amounts of time based on just raw snap share percentage. I hope he makes plays. He's a big physical athlete. But Romeo Doubs is an intriguing prospect as well. And then you've got, Sammy Watkins, another late-round flyer in these best ball drafts or any fantasy league that could potentially be something that's somewhat of a opportunity for a league-winning pick. We'll see what happens, though. We are coming up on our 12th round selection. Tua Tagovailoa is one of the higher-ranked players remaining on the board, someone who I'm optimistic on this season as a quarterback, too. He's got a Week 11 bye. I just want to check the Chargers. They're Week 8. I always get them tripped up, so there, of course, he goes. We're getting sniped left and right today. It's just the type of day and the type of video that we're experiencing in today's draft. It's great. I love it. I think I'm going to draft a share of Rachaad White here. The reasoning for that is Leonard Fournette, to me, has some very realistic concerns this year. I think he's phenomenal when he's out there. He's a talented pass catcher. Him and Tom Brady are always on the same page in terms of when to break off your route, being a safety blanket, being a very valuable piece to that offense. But I'll be honest, Rachaad White looks like the better athlete. During the preseason, he looks like he's in better shape. He looks like he is the more prepared player for the season. Yes, he's learning the playbook. Yes, Leonard Fournette is a certified workhorse running back that has his job on lock when healthy. But I think things could play out in a fashion where you're looking back and you say, oh, yeah, well, Rachaad White, if something were to happen, could be a dang good and insanely valuable player to that offense. I couldn't stop myself. I had to draft another Jalen Tolbert share there. For me, he has the best opportunity of anyone left on the board right now. Jacoby Myers, I guess, would be the other player that I could make that argument for. But Mecole Hardman, I've seen it. I'm not expecting him to just become better out of thin air this season. KJ Osborne, the Vikings, this is going to sound stupid, all right? But hear me out here. I already had minimal shares of KJ Osborne, and then they go out and trade for Jalen Reagor, and it's this whole fun situation where you've got that video of the Vikings laughing at the Eagles on the NFL draft broadcast the night of the draft, and yes, they laughed at the Eagles for being idiots and picking him before Justin Jefferson. It's maybe not so much of an indictment on Reagor as a player, but I have to imagine if they traded for him, they're going to play him. Like, he's going to see the field in some way, shape, or form, whether that's as a raw field stretching asset. You never know what the case is going to be. He actually kind of seems like a Vikings player to me, which is kind of odd. And it's not that I'm saying that he's going to take away all of KJ Osborne's opportunity. Maybe Osborne remains the wide receiver 3 and Reagor is the wide receiver 4. But I do think it is worth something. It's worth noting at some extent. So I did want to talk about that. Another interesting note there, Brian Robinson continues to go in the 12th round of today's draft. Of course, I've had to reference this in the last few videos, but he was involved in that unfortunate carjacking incident. He is okay. That's great news. It sounds like he had a couple of bullets fired into his leg from the carjacker and non-life-threatening stuff. It actually sounds like the Commanders are optimistic he could play sometime this year. I would love to see that. I've been really excited to watch him play. I had him ranked fairly highly coming out of this draft, probably higher than consensus. I would actually say significantly higher than consensus. And it looked like that was going to come to fruition. He was beating out Antonio Gibson in training camp. He was doing all these awesome things. He's a phenomenal pass protector on third down, which gives you a really solid case for why he should be on the field. And obviously his size just gives him goal line utility. So I was excited from everything from here on down with Brian Robinson, and then some a-hole had to go mess up his rookie season for him. So hopefully he can recover quickly from that, get back on his feet here, and absolutely crush it. I was, again, super, super excited for him. Wish I had more shares of him this season, especially before his ADP initially jumped after all of the Gibson reports from preseason, and it looked like he had surpassed him and then eventually actually did. So there goes Jacoby Myers at the 14-4. He's not the sexiest pick here in a best ball draft, but what he is a very consistent flex. If your whole team just flops on you and you need someone to fill in that last spot in your lineup in this format, that can be something very, very useful to have. Just a guy who's reliable and dependable in this type of a league. I do need to address some depth positions here. We do not have a second tight end or quarterback. We do have 5 picks here But we are starting to get to kind of the territory of the draft board where it's not, I don't love it. You know what I'm saying? I don't love not having more players at different position groups here. So I might take the plunge and go down the board here, take another QB. There goes Deshaun Watson at the 14-8. Our pick is coming up very quickly here, so my time to make a decision is really, really, we're getting kind of squeezed. The other option is Zamir White is chilling there. I do have Josh Jacobs. I am not, like the biggest. I would have 2 sets of handcuffs, and I would have drafted, 6 running backs today? Oh, yeah, he'd be my 6th running back. I mean, I could go 6-6, 3-3, and have an insanely balanced team. I might just do that because then I feel very comfortable about this running back position room. Is it kind of killing my upside a little bit? Sure. But really outside of depth purposes, I think my starting lineup is phenomenal. I think if you told me the guys I have on this roster, if they're out there healthy playing every week, I love my chances. So we'll see. We'll see how things play out here. There are some receivers I would love to have, though. I think I already got my 6 receivers, though, don't I? I do. Maybe I'll go 6, 7, 3, and 2. Because with Jameson Williams just staring me in the face there, it is not the easiest thing in the world to pass on that upside. Down the stretch of this season, give me some run after catch, man. Oh boy, it's too good to pass on. I know he's starting on the NFI list. He's not going to be someone that's probably available week 1, but man, what gets me going about Jameson Williams is A, watching his tape, and then B, seeing the freaking party they threw in that draft room when he fell down to him. They were, pissing their pants when the Saints traded up to 11 to draft Olave, and then as soon as they announced the pick and it wasn't Williams, they're like, get on the phone. Like, he's going to be the real deal. They are going to shovel this man the football, and I think his athleticism gives him all the opportunity in the world to make plays. Jared Goff is the perfect ball distribution quarterback. It's going to work. It's going to be great. He did it with Amon-Ra St. Brown last season. I think they can coexist because I think that their skill sets, unlike Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, where, yeah, you could argue that maybe their offense is better than Detroit's. They've got, obviously, on paper, better playmakers. The quarterback position, if you want to compare and contrast Tua and Jared Goff, be my guest. I'll leave that up to you guys for today. Maybe in a different video we'll discuss that. Probably not. Not sure that's enough content worth making a video on, but the point being here is that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek, to me, do the same things really well, and their weaknesses are also the same. Let's put it that way. Like, I don't want to say they're carbon copies of another because while Jalen Waddle looked awesome last season, I still think that Tyreek Hill has kind of earned the benefit of the doubt of being considered the top passing target in that offense. But then you consider the fact with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra's strength is kind of doing the dirty work, catching those intermediate passes, short and underneath stuff. Jameson can do all that stuff. Now, neither of these guys, it's not a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin situation where I think those two truly mesh each other's play styles perfectly, being players that fulfill 2 completely separate roles, and then you've got yourself, obviously, the reasoning why each of them can succeed. You've got your big slot option that can run every single route in the tree, and also be kind of that dirty work player. He can do a ton after the catch, and then you've got your big box jump ball player, possession receiver, and Mike Evans. I may have said Mike Williams before, not sure. With Jameson Williams, however, you get a guy who can stretch the field as well. So you have multiple ways that they can contrast from one another that I think benefits them in the offense because it allows them to do separate roles and to be different players, to catch different styles of passes, to be used in different ways, different motions, alignments, all that good stuff. So that was a really extended and drawn-out answer there. But basically what I'm telling you is I think you can be excited about Jameson and Amon-Ra St. Brown at the same time. Geno Smith, baby. That's the first time I've seen that. And it's warranted now because Drew Lock basically serves us no purpose. Who knows? Maybe Geno gets benched. I doubt it, though. Like, he's the mature veteran in the room. He's the guy that's actually dependable and reliable for this team. Is there much of a ceiling there for Seattle? No, there is not. I'm actually kind of surprised to see him go ahead of Mac Jones. Maybe it's because they have some inkling that there might be some ounce of rushing ability left in the tank. Give me my man Jared Goff, though. Give me the Jameson Jared Goff stack as my QB2. It is I'm gonna have to hold the phone on that. All right, we've got 2 options. Okay, there goes Jared Goff. So the pick here is gonna be Isaiah Likely. Did he just go? Where did he go? There he is. I about lost it. I thought I got double sniped. Boom, boom. Both of the players are gone. So now we've got the stack. I will have to draft a 3rd tight end. That is not even an option. So it'll be 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. I will take Baker here. Oh, wait. Yeah, we should be fine there. Let me check this QB room real quick. I might actually draft Kenny Pickett. I can't do that to myself because if he doesn't end up starting, I could be totally screwed. Mariota, oh God, all these quarterbacks could lose their jobs. This is rough. This is very rough. Oh, man. All right. I'm going to have to take the plunge and hope to God that Baker Mayfield can hold down a job for 17 weeks. Or at least, Baker, can you please keep your job for me until week 8? Week 9. We need you to have your jobs. Well. You know, let's say week 10. Because if you're going to stink it up for me in week 8 when I actually need you to play, that's going to suck and be very unfortunate for me. So, moral of the story, we went a bit heavier at running back. I usually like to roll with 5 guys I'm really confident about, build out my receiver core, but I felt it was necessary today with the risk we had. Obviously having Penny, who's kind of injury prone, Walker's hurt right now, who knows, maybe you've got a 3rd party starting in that Seattle backfield at some point in time. Zamir White and Josh Jacobs, feel great about that. Rashad White, maybe I could have avoided that pick, but for me, it was something that I just think he could be a really dominant player in a vacuum of a couple of weeks if he's given a starting job. So I think he is definitely a potential lead back candidate for an NFL team at some point in his career. I would love to see it with the Bucs. I think he could thrive catching passes out of the backfield with Brady as well. It's not like he's James White, like that level of a pass-catching back, but he is very talented, skilled, and smooth in that phase of the game. So if you guys are liking the new studio today, you probably can't see it again. The biggest difference is probably the audio quality. I feel like as I'm talking today, I can hear the difference from the kind of hollow, empty room I was in before versus we've got some acoustic foam up here behind the camera that I'm looking into right now that I think is really doing a good job at hopefully giving you guys crisp audio. The one thing that might be a little problematic is I'm still trying to figure out the lighting in this room. Right before we went on the draft, I was tinkering with my studio light, which is above my head, and I've got a lamp in front of my face as well, it's kind of a darker room, so I'm trying to keep it well lit enough that it's not messing with the green screen and getting you guys this fuzzy picture, but at the same time, it's hurting my eyes here a little bit, so I'm going to have to mess with some stuff, but that's all good. Again, though, if you guys are enjoying, make sure to click that like button. Subscribe to the SFS channel so you never miss a video. I want to be an interactive fantasy tool for you guys, of course, as well. So any questions, comments, concerns you've got for me, drop that stuff on down in the comment section below. I'm happy to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. We have one more draft pick to make today. I apologize. I am not even in the same stratosphere of the rounds we're drafting. For those of you that I'm blocking your view, Devin Duvernay, Mariota, and Sterling Shepard rounded out the back end of the 17th round. Tyler Beatty, a running back, pass-catching back for the Baltimore Ravens. Jamison Crowder and Gus Edwards is how we're kicking off the 18th round here. And just in case, the 17-9, in case I blocked that as well, is A.J. Green. Sony Michel, a new Chargers running back, is the 18-4. Maybe raining a little bit on the Isaiah Spiller parade, someone I did not love out of college here. Potentially a missed draft pick. We'll see. I don't think Isaiah Spiller ever becomes the lead back for that team. I think he is solely I think his upside, his ceiling, would be Latavius Murray. I think the Chargers would love to have a Latavius Murray level player out of Isaiah Spiller. So they bring in Sony Michel, big part of the Rams Super Bowl run on offense last year. Obviously with Akers going down, Henderson being beat up down the stretch. So yeah. Khalil Shakir, another sneaky Bills potential slot receiver. 3 guys all vying for that last spot. Paris Campbell, Eno Benjamin. Not a big Eno Benjamin guy, to be honest. I think you just draft Darrell Williams and call it a day if you're going to draft a handcuff for the Cardinals offense. I suppose I better look at the board here. I do need a tight end. Oh, man, I gave myself no time to assess the situation here. By the time I started entertaining this stuff, Trey Sermon just got waived, so that's interesting. Who knows? Maybe land somewhere in a good spot. We have 18 seconds. So the options are Mo Alley Cox, week 14 bye, which Ravens are what? Week 10, 11 here. I really need to figure this out real fast. Week 10. All right. I don't want to go a week without a tight end. All right, we'll do it. In the name of the Father, the Son, and Tom Brady, please give me some touchdown passes in week 10, Kyle Rudolph. So here is the team. I'm feeling pretty good about this group. I'm actually really excited about it. Look at us. No 4+ bye week exposures in today's video. Surprised about that a little bit. We have kind of leveraged ourselves into Tampa Bay's offense. Only one starter. Potentially, we'll see if Cam Brate or Kyle Rudolph are the starter. That would be the other difference there. But Herbert and Baker Mayfield are our quarterbacks. We went in early at the 4-11 and drafted Justin Herbert. I did think that was a good value, so I don't regret making that draft pick. What I do regret is not having a third quarterback, because I don't love having Baker as my only backup, especially because Herbert's probably going to have a couple rough weeks. That's just the nature of the beast here. It's going to happen to any player, no matter how good they are in fantasy football. Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs. So again, just wishing I had some more depth there. CMC, Josh Jacobs, Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, and Zamir White. Wow, look at us. So we have 3 rookie running backs in this core. We've got the handcuff for Seattle, Kenneth Walker. Obviously, we have the starter as well, Rashad Penny. We have Rashad White, the handcuff to Leonard Fournette. I think Rashad White, again, is an insanely skilled player. I think he's one of the best talents at the running back position in the 2022 class. It's going to depend on how much he gets the ball, though. And then Zamir White is the handcuff to Josh Jacobs, who I also feel very good about. I think he can be a solid RB2 for this team. And then CMC, he's going to be the make or break piece of this team. I'll be straight up with that. Oh, wait. No. Oh, my gosh, you guys. I feel like a fool. So you guys are probably looking along in today's episode thinking to yourself, well, you said you had 0 4+ bye week exposures. I have 0 4+ team exposures. I do have a 4+ bye week exposure, that being week 11, with Penny, Walker, and White. You see all there at the running back position. We're going to have to roll and just go out on a limb and hope that some of those guys are available for us. Be Jacobs, Zamir, and if CMC's not healthy, I guess I'll be starting 2 Raiders running backs. That's fun. So then we've got Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, Romeo Doubs, Isaiah McKenzie, Jalen Tolbert, and Jamison Williams. Let's see, we've got just 2 rookies in that group, actually. Probably a lower number for what I usually have here. I love that group. I think the top 3 will do phenomenally. I think if you get Tolbert to hit early in the season, that would be awesome. If Romeo Doubs hits as well, I feel really good about that. Isaiah McKenzie, if he fills that Cole Beasley role, could easily be a flex play for us. And Jamison Williams is just kind of a blow-the-top-off guy. Hopefully, in terms of fantasy ceiling, he'll do stuff all over the field for Detroit. But I like that situation a lot for us. And then Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, getting ourselves a tight end stack there. The reason I did that is because Isaiah Likely looks phenomenal. They could do a lot of 2 tight end sets. Actually, the Ravens are very well known for that. Nick Boyle, when he was a member of the team, was a phenomenal blocker, and he was almost always in the game with Mark Andrews. You also had guys like Hayden Hurst in the field as well. They'll go into 3 tight end sets every once in a while. They like to play big in Baltimore, obviously having that option run game. And then Kyle Rudolph is going to have to be our saving grace 1 week of the season in week 10 when the Ravens are on bye week. But the theory behind drafting Isaiah Likely is that possibly he could have some monster games. Maybe he outproduces Andrews in the contest here or there. But of course, Mark Andrews being a 3rd-round draft investment for us, if something were to happen to him, I feel very, very comfortable having Isaiah Likely fill in because of the work he showed he could do in the preseason. They will get their tight ends the ball there in Baltimore. So that's something to feel really good about. That's just an identity of their passing offense. Lamar Jackson has shown really good trust in that room. So stuff I love to see there. So there's another draft. I might post 1 or 2 more of these before the end of the season. We've got rankings episodes that'll be coming out here. And then we're diving into in-season content, maybe getting you guys some in-season Dynasty fantasy football content as well. There's a ton of stuff coming. I'm super excited about it. This is going to be an awesome season. So make sure you click that subscribe button, smash that like, turn the bell on so you're never late for an episode. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.